Welcome back to Maximum News. Rant incoming, Syb, go!
Brain rot. I mean, it's everywhere. Like, I mean, it's literally everywhere these days. I can't go out the door without bumping into brain rot. I can't walk down the street without bumping into brain rot. I can't drive a car without running into several piles of brain rot, which actually might be zombies. But at any rate,
Yeah.
it's
not good
just
for your credit.
everywhere. So I tried to be like genuine with this. An article came up in my newsfeed, and it said Fallout 5's announcement leaves many speculating that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be left behind. And I went, okay, I am the most dedicated Fallout fan, period, that has ever existed on this planet, period.
I mean, yeah.
There's very few people who know more about the series than I do. There's very few people who've met more of the lead developers than I have. There's very few people who have ever questioned, how did I not know that Fallout 5 was announced? This seems kind of strange. Especially since the last thing we knew about it, they're looking to increase and ramp up production of Fallout IP. However, Fallout 5 is going to be staying with Bethesda for obvious reasons. This does not, for the intelligent out there, this does not denote or insist or say that we're not going to see more Fallout content in the form of other Fallout entries. Fallout 5 specifically is a category thing. It's a mainline entry. They could come out with another Fallout phone game. They're not going to call that Fallout 5. They could come out with a joint developed RPG from Obsidian. That's not Fallout 5.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of projects that we could see that have been teased and then cleverly unteased. I didn't actually say that on the Freeman podcast. You misheard me. We're working on something, but it's going to be a long time. Oh, by the way, tune in this fall because we're going to have this big thing and we can't talk about it at all.
Oh, wait, are you talking about that phone message thing?
Yeah.
So nice.
So lots of this stuff has been teased, but at no point in the last few weeks have I heard about Fallout 5 being announced.
Well, I mean, right, but
that's a very, very key word. That's a very important word. Announced. Yeah. Right.
We know they're working on it, and they've said as much, but there's no Elder Scrolls 6 at E3 2017 moment where they show the trailer and then do nothing for 7 years, right? That's what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So there's been nothing new, and I checked again. The last stuff that we heard was back in March, and little rumors in May and stuff like that. So there's been nothing for months, and I'm like, okay, what is this stupid article?
Yeah, where's it coming
from?
What
are they on about? This is coming from Gaming Bible, which is pretty hilarious because this is pretty
heretical.
Heretical.
Yeah.
Blasphemy. So yeah, here's the article. This was from a person on Reddit saying that he thinks that Bethesda is going to take away resources from Elder Scrolls 6.
No.
So you heard this correctly. This is a person on Reddit. This is not an employee on Reddit. This is not a leaker on Reddit. This is a random user on Reddit who made a post about, hey, I'm kind of upset that, Bethesda might be chasing the flavor of the month video game TV show and that they're not going to make Elder Scrolls 6 properly.
I mean, sure, but if you think about it for more than 5 seconds, no. I mean,
yeah.
If there was any chance, you could bet your bottom dollar that I would be leading riots in the streets up to the Bethesda's offices. Peaceful, just so I don't get the law on my ass. But I swear to God, if anything were to get in the way of Elder Scrolls 6 getting made, I know, even if it is Fallout 5, Syb, I'm sorry, there's no excuse. The next game better be Elder Scrolls 6. But no, come on. It's Elder Scrolls. Aside from maybe GTA 6 and Half-Life 3, is there any game out there that's more anticipated?
Not really, except for, all the old favorites. But I mean, And I thought when I kept reading through the article, I'm like, okay, well maybe this is a troll. Maybe and especially when I discovered the user's name, Curious Woolly Mammoth.
Okay.
Yeah, we have journalists taking news cues from Reddit users, and Reddit's just, I mean, it's an awful place. It really is. It's just a genuinely awful place.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what they led the story with. It's like, oh, some random guy told me that, you know, he thinks that the studio might do something different. Oh, really? Really? Is this where they get their other advice about, you know, pretty much everything else that we've seen recently? You just some random guy on a random website somewhere? Is that where I'm hearing about all this other brain rot stuff? Like I am absolutely incensed and infuriated that I had my time wasted. I'm sorry I wasted your time, but I'm saying this in the hope that you don't go, wait, Fallout 5 is announced. Oh my goodness, I better get on it and go looking and scouring for a story that's not there.
Yeah.
That's made up by some very poor like website desperately trying to get people to click on this.
Yeah. Because
it's so aggravating.
Yeah, that's how they get their money. They put a whole bunch of advertisements on their article because they can't really get money any other ways. And the best way they can get people to come to their website is not through good coverage. It's through clickbait articles like that because, you know, Fallout's hot right now and Fallout 5, you know, it's not as anticipated as Elder Scrolls 6, but it's still Fallout 5. There's still something to be said about it. But yeah, I mean, what else? Let's just move on from this, I suppose. Brain rot. Aside from that, guys, we do actually have a lot of decent news to talk about today. Let's just move on to this. This is probably the best news to come out of the gaming industry in a long time. Tango Gameworks. You'll remember a couple months ago that Microsoft closed that game studio down because I don't know. I don't think there was a legitimate reason why. There might be a reason, but it's not a good reason. These are the guys
you're pure stupidity, I think, is the term you're looking for.
That's a reason, yeah. It's not a good reason, but it's a reason. They were the guy, it was the company that was founded by the legendary Shinji Mikami, obviously of Resident Evil fame. And under his leadership, they made The Evil Within and The Evil Within 2, which are magnificent games. They made Ghostwire Tokyo, which is it's not great, but it's still a pretty solid game. I would recommend people play it. And then they made Hi-Fi Rush. That's their most famous, probably their most famous and most loved game. It got a whole bunch of Game of the Year awards last year. Very, very well loved. But despite all that success and talent, and you know them being bought out by Microsoft, they figured that wasn't enough. They figured it wasn't worth nurturing them. After Shinji Mikami left, I guess for some reason, and they decided to close them down, along with Arcane Austin. Was it Arcane Austin? Yeah, I think it was Arcane Austin. Yeah, Arcane Austin, and a couple of other studios along with them, just because, I don't know, I guess they didn't see a future for them. They're probably just focused on the big IPs that they now own, like Call of Duty, Overwatch, yada, yada, yada. But some great news. There are people in the games industry that notice talent and want to preserve it and bring it under their wing. And in the case of Tango Gameworks, they have been bought out by Krafton, the publisher of PUBG. I actually had
Very interesting.
Yeah. Well, while I'm bringing up their full statement, why don't you give people your thoughts on it, Seb?
So this is good, and this is going to be very confusing for a lot of people reading some of the other stories today that we're talking about, because Microsoft is doing some really weird things, which now, in comparison to this, are really, really weird. Like super bizarre at this point. Like we're entering like the Twilight Zone of like oddity here, because they're doing something else with Blizzard that I'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, this was one of the decisions that I think was a very poor decision. They talked about how they needed to have more studios like this in the future. Any studio that they build they're not going to have mega. It's going to be very hard for them to have mega success on their first game.
Yeah.
It's just does not work that way. It is not something that you know, any kind of a new thing is going to take years of investment and growing in order to get it good. And I think Tango is a perfect example in that yes, they didn't have, it wasn't a super amazing, sold 1 billion copies success, but it was definitely laying the seeds to a great foundation. And this is like genuinely one of the most important things that you can have done with any studio, is to have critical success first, in the form of like, hey, they paid their bills and they really got themselves on the billboard kind of thing, right? You want to see that, but then for some reason they just closed it down. And I think again it's one of these things of like, Microsoft said, "Hey, Phil, we gotta, things are crashing. Things are really bad. You gotta close down like a bunch of stuff. We're like, we gotta close down like 5 studios."
Yeah.
And he managed to argue it down to what they had, and then it's made more sense that way. But yeah, very dumb, very stupid, and incredibly glad and happy that a company that's behind PUBG is actually forward thinking enough to say, hey, let's save this studio. So very, very, very happy about that. I don't know all the particular details, but this is like, this brings me hope, because I'm like, okay, well, hopefully we're not going to have this, have our faces run into a wall here with this down the road. But yeah, I think this is a good thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so what's the deets on it?
All right, so I'm reading this from Eurogamer.net, and this was a statement that was put out by Krafton. As part of this strategic agreement, Krafton intends to collaborate with Xbox and ZeniMax to ensure a smooth... Sorry, guys, I'm a little bit sick today. I'm not feeling that great. Please bear with me. To ensure a smooth transition and maintain continuity at Tango Gameworks, allowing the talented team to continue developing the Hi-Fi Rush IP and explore future projects, and then in parentheses, including The Evil Within 3, which he did not say out loud. I'm hoping that that's what he was thinking internally. He just can't say that out loud. The statement goes on that Krafton said it will support the team at Tango Gameworks to continue its commitment to innovation and delivering fresh and exciting experiences for fans. The publisher noted that there will be no impact on the existing game catalog of The Evil Within 2, Ghostwire Tokyo, and the original Hi-Fi Rush game. This integration reinforces Krafton's dedication to expanding its global footprint and enhancing its portfolio with innovative and high-quality content. The release continues. Krafton said the addition of Tango Gameworks is a part of the company's mission to push the boundaries of interactive entertainment. That's good. I mean, like PUBG, of all the Battle Royale games, that's probably the one that I've enjoyed the most. But I don't know. I haven't really paid attention to it for the past 2 or 3 years. I don't really know how the community is, if it's still going strong, or what Krafton and the team have been doing around it to sort of ensure the continued success. I imagine PUBG Mobile probably gets them a lot of money still. But yeah, like you said, Side, they're forward thinking in regards to the way that the market is developing, and purchasing somebody like Tango Gameworks, purchasing the talent, and preparing for what you and I have been saying is the inevitable downfall of the AAA game development market as it is just the costs have been getting way out of hand, and just trying to purchase talent so they can, have them develop new and innovative experiences in the single player realm. It's very, very smart, in my opinion, and I hope that this all works out in the end, and hopefully we'll get The Evil Within 3, because oh my god, The Evil Within 1 and 2, they're well loved and they sold well enough, but it's just never good enough. They're so good, and I want Evil Within 3 so bad. Yeah, and hopefully we get Hi-Fi Rush 2, because yeah, that sort of came out of nowhere and was a smash hit and was really, really good. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, anything else before we move on, Seb?
No, I think kudos. Hopefully they can get everybody back together on that. Hopefully there's not people that are forgotten about or left on the sideline. Hopefully they can drum up everybody who got canned. And yeah, I'm fingers crossed.
Yeah, hope to hear from them very, very soon. All right, moving on to this next piece of news. Saib, it's sort of the laugh stock of the internet right now in the gaming community. Borderlands. That movie came, and it was a thing. We talked about it.
Wasn't very good.
Yeah, from what we heard. Yeah, last week we talked about the reviews that were coming out for it, and on Rotten Tomatoes, accumulated review score is a 9%, which I can't remember the last time a major wide release movie got a 9% negative critic rating. Yeah, it's not good. And at the time it was just coming out when we recorded the podcast, and we were going to update you guys on what the box office results were going to be. It was tracking pretty low. I can't remember what the exact estimates were, but it doesn't matter now because we got them. Side, this movie cost around $110 million in production. Add on top of that, there's probably like a $30 million marketing budget because it usually rounds out to like
at the very least.
At
now
the very least.
I've seen 0 advertisements for this.
Yeah.
So that I wonder if that's because I'm just not in that space that they're advertising, which would be one of the stupidest things that they could possibly do.
Mm-hmm.
Like why I should be seeing this when I log into Steam, right? I should be seeing advertisements for when I log onto Steam. I should be hearing people talk about this, but I have heard nothing.
Yeah, the most I've only seen like 1 or 2 advertisements here or there, maybe on YouTube. And I saw the trailer for it when I went to go see Deadpool and Wolverine for a second time on Monday, because my new routine is whenever I finish a video, I go to clear my mind. I go to the movie theater to watch a movie. And there was a trailer for Borderlands in front of it, but yeah, that's it. Should have been a bigger push, to say the least. So in total, it's looking like the movie cost about $150 million to make. And what would it need to make to break even? So if it were $150 million for production and marketing, there's usually some added costs on top of that. That I can't, maybe like 200 to 25 at the very least to break even, something like that. Side, this opening weekend, it made $16 million. 16.
I heard it was 8.8 million.
I think that's the domestic. I'm talking about global.
Oh, international. Okay.
Yeah. 16.
Yeah, that's not good.
Million. So
that's not good.
By the time this is done, it could lose the studio up to $170 million. Now, I'm not one to publicly rejoice in somebody's failure, but I'm going to make an exception here, and let me explain why I said. This film was made by Lionsgate, right? One of my most popular videos on my channel is a video called The Most Profound Ending in Horror Film History. It's about a movie, a very disturbing movie, which I wouldn't recommend anybody watch. Pretty much anybody. It's one of the most disturbing movies ever made. It's a movie called Martyrs. I did a video on that, and it garnered like 2.5 million views. I think it's over 2 million at the moment. So, it might be 2.5. I didn't make a single dime on that video because no matter how many times I tried to edit the video or block out whatever content that they kept striking me, they would just, they would, at the very end, when I decided to give up trying to go up against them, they copyright struck me for like a 5-second clip. They were money hungry. And apparently Lionsgate is very unique in this regard when it comes to people who talk about their movies on YouTube. So, I hope that, I think I speak on behalf of all YouTubers who have ever talked about a Lionsgate movie and had their ad revenue taken away from them. When I say that, I hope that they cry enough tears of unfathomable sadness that I can bathe in them for always and eternity until the heat death of the universe. Yeah. I mean, I might change my mind if you decide to give me my thousands of dollars back that you completely cost me, but, until then, I hope you go and F yourselves in perpetuity until the end of time. Yeah. So, Sai, do you have maybe some less salacious words to say about this?
A big giant, I told you so.
Yeah.
A big giant, I told you so. What are you doing? Why? And again, it's ridiculous. They hired analysts and content advisory BS that this job is to explain to them how to make money on products like this, you know, going into this. And I can see it all. Like I can see it clearly. I've not been heavily involved in Hollywood. Um, I've never been like really deep in there. I know a few people from Hollywood? Yes. Do I know a couple of key actors that I've met here and there? It's like, yeah, sure. But I've never really been in it. But, you know, every anybody could have, like, I can see what they did from the get-go. I can see it exactly what they did. That movie is so hardcore Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it literally it stinks of it.
It's like test audiences were invited to offer their opinion on every single element of the script and the production design, and they just took everything that they said as gospel and changed everything in the process, and what we got is just this amalgamation of people who think that they're appealing to what people want, but in the end they're doing the exact opposite of everything that people want. That's what Borderlands is. And like you said, Cy, we were able to pick up on this years ago.
Yeah.
It's just so obvious. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted you, please.
No, it's just the heads of the studio have long since been bribed away by Hollywood, have been, you know, bedazzled by the inner clubs. And I mean, yeah, sure, the inner clubs are interesting, occasionally cultish and murdery, but you know, it's you know,
sometimes
it's
they sacrifice a goat on the altar of Baal. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes people allegedly. And there's some weird stuff that goes on in that, but yeah, it's mostly that it's a different culture. There is a process in Hollywood that works about like 20-30% of the time. There's a lot of losers in Hollywood. Like there really genuinely is. There's a lot of losers in Hollywood. There's also a lot of hardworking normal folks. You know, you don't ever see them unless you stick around for the credits way after, like, you know, they start, and you see the you know the grip and the, you know, the lighting guy and the makeup team and the hairdressers and and you know, the people that actually, I think in most cases actually make the movies worthwhile. Very rarely is it, especially these days, it's very rarely the director, and in a lot of cases not even the writers, because the writers these days for successful movies, I'm talking successful movies, in a lot of cases the writers for successful, they're just following a script of like the best ways to do it. And if you fed that stuff into a computer and then had a computer do their job, they would usually end up coming up with the exact same thing, right? Like it's so formulaic. And that's what I mean about this show. This movie was so formulaic. It was so like, hey, this is clearly a cool thing. And you know that one scene where, what's his name? The guy from all those he's in the Spy Kids movies, and he's in a lot of the grungy like movies, like
Antonio Banderas.
No, but he played next to him in a lot of movies.
Yeah. Machete. Who's in it? Oh, Danny Trejo.
No, yeah, not him, but the other only, like, one of the few white guys in that group of guys who make all those movies. He did that one scene on, I think it was Saturday Night Live, where he's pretending to be a high schooler, and he's in the hallway and he's like, "Hello, fellow high schoolers."
Oh, you mean yeah. What the hell's his name?
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi.
Buscemi. There we go. Buscemi is a brilliant actor, and he's very good. One of the few people, actually, that whole team of people that we were just talking about. I can't remember what his studio's called, and he's not based out of Hollywood. He's based out of Texas, and he films most of his movies there.
Mm-hmm.
that writer director, Rodrigo something or other, I think.
Robert
Um,
Rodriguez, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I've liked a lot of his movies in the past, not all of them, but a good chunk of them. But again, he's outside that, so he makes movies that are more fresh and more different, I think. Again, I'm not a huge movie buff. I literally haven't sat down and watched a movie in probably months. Like at home, and never mind going to the theaters. I want to go see Deadpool, but I haven't had the chance to. But those people kind of get it. The people who influenced this movie were the diehard, hardcore, interconnected people in Hollywood that basically they get their mitts on almost everything that's made in Hollywood, and everything comes out just pure garbage. Like just not good. It's so formulaic. It's so and very rarely do they actually have a success. These are people who've I followed some of these careers where it's like these people made one failure after another, after another, after another, after another, yet somehow they keep moving up in the world. Kind of weird. Very odd.
Well, it's not.
Don't like it.
Yeah, it's unfortunately not unusual. I mean, look at the two.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to refrain from making that political comment, but I think you guys can see where I was going with that. Do you think that God stays in heaven because he lives in fear of what he created? That's such an underrated line from Spy Kids 2. It's it's like, where the hell did that come from? It's deep. Right. It's very disturbing for a kids movie. But
I really did love the Spy Kids movie.
Oh,
I was a little older than I should have been, but I watched them and I was like, genuinely, I really liked the intelligence of the way that he made the movies, how he used lighting when he didn't have good visual, artificial effects, stuff like that.
It added to the charm, yeah.
It added to the charm, and they've aged pretty well. And I do like a handful of this. I really do like a handful of the stories, and I like their little like clique of actors. I think most of them have a fairly good head on their shoulders. So yeah, great for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you could tell that this movie was not made by people like that. And I would say that Fallout had more of those types of people on it, where it's like they're out of the box thinkers. They're trying something different. Yes, Fallout was slightly more formulaic than I would have preferred, but in all honesty, it's like they kind of had to. I'm hoping that they really branch out and try something like, go their own way, tell the Fallout stories, the really messed up Fallout stories with that edge of like silver lining. That's what you have to have,
dude. Season 2 is going to be so legit. It is going to be so freaking legit, man. After that ending,
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, but provided they don't do anything that messes up the canon. Yeah. I mean, that was one major complaint, but as long as it's a good story. Like I said last week, Borderlands, hopefully it's just sort of a flash in the pan and we can continue this trend towards great video game adaptations. It seems like we're going to continue to do that. And speaking of like people who somehow keep getting work despite their crap output, Eli Roth directed this movie. Yeah, I don't think the guy's made a good movie since Hostel. I
don't think Hostel was a good movie. I think that
it was the one that wasn't horrible. That's it's like it was okay.
Any horror movie is like, most horror movies are not done well. Especially not the mainstream ones. It's like the guy who's jumped on by the person who's standing beside him, but because of the camera angle, for some reason, he has no peripheral vision whatsoever, right? And it's a jump scare. It's like, I hate jump scares. I think it works if you're doing something like more corny, and you're kind of embracing that works. But no, I hate most horror movies because they don't have any logical coherency.
Yeah.
At all. And again, some people go, and they're not supposed to. Get over yourself. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm not telling you have bad taste. I'm just saying that they could.
It's not for me. Yeah. It's just the way that art is. Like some people they can only really, when it comes to horror, the only thing that they really get a lot out of are like the genuine masterpieces, like The Shining or Rosemary's Baby or
Yeah.
stuff like that. I get it. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on from that. What do we got up next? Oh yeah, there's something going on with Blizzard. I don't know what the hell's going on.
It's Microsoft Blizzard, and in comparison to the Tango Gameworks story, we have a little bit of a weird thing with this. Okay. They have announced that they are putting together multiple smaller studios that are intent on making AA non-live service games.
Wait, are you really? What? What? Are you serious?
That are within the realms of the existing Blizzard IP. So we're talking about new StarCraft, new Warcraft, like original Warcraft lore story. We're talking about like an Overwatch story game that's not built off of the current thing. We don't know exactly, more Diablo, this kind of stuff. Apparently that's what they're doing, and apparently we could end up with, I did some buzzing today, they could be talking about 5 or more studios. Again, relatively small, making AA content that is usually like drop and go. So like, again, leaning towards live service, but you know how that's not a promise, especially with greedy megacorps. But yeah, that really caught my ear today. I was like, oh, interesting, really? So yeah, apparently they're putting people together. And something else that I've noticed in watching a lot of Blizzard news recently, especially with World of Warcraft, is that there's been a remarkable change at the company. So for the past, I would say the past decade, at the very least, probably closer to like 14 years, a lot of Warcraft, World of Warcraft specifically, has been made by people who clearly don't play the game. Like, not on any serious level. They're not passionate about it. They're usually out watching some other or playing some other game, and then they're like, "Hey, let's put these features in the game. This is so cool." You know, garbage like that, where they're just like, "Yes, this is what I want," and it's refreshing to see. It's very interesting, and I think we're seeing something new here, because what had come from this, if you go back, again, like 12 years, is like these people are they're not playing the game. They're not making the game. They're not really putting passion into the game. A lot of the expansions have been garbage, and they've been getting progressively worse and worse and worse and worse. And one of the heads of the company, one of the heads of Blizzard, not the head of the studio, but one of the heads within the company itself, came out in an interview a couple weeks ago and said that one of their products that released a few years ago was panned as the worst of the worst of the worst, the absolute worst that the players had ever seen. Completely unhappy with it in every possible regard, and the statement was that wasn't their worst decisions were made. The worst decisions weren't made in that game. The worst decisions were made years before, and that was when the punishment and the repercussions finally caught up with them. And that's why, they hit this wall. And I found that to be incredibly, like, self-respective. Like, somebody clearly sat down, in this case Ian Hazzikostas, and I think it was Ian, and really, really thought about it. I read it. It was quoted. I read Ian, so if it's not him, apologies, but I'm pretty sure it is. And he said this, and I was thinking, that's really interesting. So I started to poke some of the other content creators and people that I know that have been playing the game. I said, there's this big expansion coming up. It's dropping in a couple weeks. How is the game looking? Because I haven't really been playing it that much. Been kind of steering away from retail in all its forms. And the response was, we are finally having issues being solved by people who apparently play the game and actually play it hard and actually enjoy the game. That we're finally getting what we've been asking for in solutions that make sense. And this goes back to when they had this big screw up a few years ago, where you could tell that they finally had started to listen to the players but listening is never enough when you're making something that's like as deep as the a subscriber based game that's super old, has huge amounts of depth to it, as World of Warcraft does, where you don't want that. What you want is people who actually play the game, who understand the game from a player's perspective, not somebody who's just listening to players. It's good to have somebody listening to players, but if they don't understand the core mechanics, and this again goes back to the previous story where people aren't actually listening to what the users want, they're trying to cast a wide net to catch, all the sardine bait balls out in the ocean. They're not actually interested in giving us what we want for the select few that follow the thing. They're not, which would totally make them enough money too, like totally work. But they want to fish everything, like Mr. Burns. He wants to cast the net and harvest the entire ocean at once, right? And make the most amount of money possible, from that kind of a thing. And it's interesting to see the change, and this kind of like seems to hint that the studio is changing now to kind of like embrace that kind of a concept of making products for people who just enjoy those very like storied things. So they're not investing, $200 million into a game that's going to be, quadruple A product in 8 years, guys. No, they're trying to make games that are smaller, that are double A, that they can put together with a small team that keep people avidly interested in what's going on. And I think that that's one of the most important things you can do in gaming, and one of the most important things you can do in any kind of like sales service type company, where it's like, make products that people want, make products that you give out for free that remind people how much they like your products and how much of a fan they are of them, so that they stick around forever. When you make nothing but bad content followed by more bad content followed by more bad content, Star Wars, Disney, what you end up getting is this absolute farce of a product that everybody just finally washes their hands of, and they're no longer interested in it. There's that kind of a problem. There's the kind of the problem that Bethesda has identified recently, where they need to start retaining some people to work on the games once they've moved past them. And Todd has said how much he realizes that they should have had a team dedicated to making, Skyrim updates for the last 10 years, like actual new content that, expansions and new things, and keep building on this thing, because the modders can keep it going for 20 years and make it, keep upgrading it to the point where it looks better and better and better every year. Then eventually, like you could be doing that as a studio. So hopefully we're seeing a bit of a change here. I know it's a lot of anecdotal stuff. But it is laying the foundation that hopefully we can finally move past the stupidity of these companies going, no, we need to make a video game that sells to everybody. I mean, think of all the 85-year-old retirees who want to play a video game. You got to make a video game for them that's just as interesting as a video game for, the 9-year-olds and the 25-year-olds and the 45-year-olds. We got to make one game that they all like, that they're all going to buy. That's never going to happen. Stop trying to do it.
You're trying to make a game for everyone, you make a game for no one.
Exactly. And so stop doing this stupidity. It doesn't work. Please do something different. And I think we're starting to see that. Starting to see it. I don't know if we're really going to get there yet, but this news, a bunch of this other news, it's leaning very heavily towards, yes, this will finally, hopefully, work. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I'm going to be paying attention to this very carefully over the next few years.
It's a smart approach. And when it comes to a lot of these franchises that you mentioned, franchises that I, at the moment, don't really have much interest in, like StarCraft, like Overwatch, if there's something that would make me want to check them out, it would be something that sort of differs from the core formula of what those games have already established. So if we could get story content for something like Overwatch. If we get something that's sort of different from the RTS type gameplay, which I'm not particularly fond of, but like something else from StarCraft, I'd be more willing to engage with that sort of stuff. Yeah, taking this approach, it allows you to keep the costs low, but it allows people to be a lot more creative. And then when they can find something that people really enjoy, then they can latch onto it, put a lot of funding behind it, and then boom. Yeah, that's the right way to go about it. That's not to say that there shouldn't be sort of a mix and match between that and sort of the pre-existing strategies, because I would like to see a lot more, speaking of like putting a lot of money behind something, I do want them to put a whole lot of money behind like Obsidian and Bethesda working together to give us Fallout New Vegas 2 or whatever the next version of that would be. But yeah, doing both of those, it makes a whole lot of sense. All right, that's wonderful news. All right, moving on to this. It's just a couple of smaller stories, but they're positive stories, and we'll conclude on this. I think, Sab, we might have heard this from like a leak a few months ago, but this is basically everything but official confirmation that Red Dead Redemption, the original game from 2010, I believe, is finally coming to PC. Damn, I forgot to pull up the article. Like, if I recall the article correctly, and forgive me. Sorry?
I am... This is so shocking, because again, it's like, do these people not like money?
Yeah.
Like, do they hate money? Are they so angry that people would dare to enjoy their game that they're just like, oh man, I'm just done with this money and the fans wanting, more of this product and stuff like that. Why can't people just be happy with not giving us money and just being like angry at us for never, giving them what they were asking for, which is, this game that everybody seems to love. Again, I just assumed that they just hated money for the most part.
I mean, yeah, you wouldn't be wrong for assuming that. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 did sell like 150 million copies, which are numbers that 99% of games and game developers would kill for. And then they decided to abandon their online component because it wasn't doing as well as GTA. Well, maybe you could have offset. I was about to yell. Right. I was about to yell. Maybe you could have, with your billions of dollars from shark cards, built a separate company or offset development to another company to create content for Red Dead Online. Oh, and also maybe, try to create some punishments for people that try to hog tie you every single 10 seconds. Yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2, the single player, one of my top 20 favorite games of all time. I played Red Dead Online for 2 hours and I never touched it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it could have been great, but yeah.
But it could have been very great. It could have been amazing, but for whatever reason,
they don't like money.
They don't like money, they don't like people, they don't like anything. It's just not something that they're interested in. Yeah. And it's, again, so bizarre.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so we found out this news about Red Dead Redemption coming to the PC because there was a listing, and this is hilarious. This is just further proof of the Rockstar's, as it's currently formulated, their incompetence. They put out something on the PS4, a listing for the PC version of the game. Yeah, so if you went to the PS4 for a select period of time a couple days ago, it would have said, and I quote, "Experience the epic Western adventures that defined a generation, now on PC for the first time ever." Because, when you go onto the PS4, you're thinking about playing on the PC. Anyway. But aside from that, there's a couple of interesting extra tidbits. I'm quoting this from a Twitter account called Wario64, who actually got the screen cap, so it's legit. Featuring the complete single-player experiences of both games, I'm assuming they mean Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Undead Nightmare. I'm assuming that's what they mean. But they say, yeah, including bonus content from the Game of the Year edition, Red Dead Redemption features all of the 2023 console version upgrades, plus PC-specific enhancements, including support for increased resolutions and frame rates, multiple displays, and other accessories, plus spatial surround sound. Okay, that's pretty good. Could play it at 4K 60 FPS. Yeah, multiple monitors. That's pretty cool. And yeah, that's wonderful. I could probably play it on my Steam Deck now. Yeah, it's interestingly said. I'm somebody who never finished the original Red Dead Redemption. I tried to go and play it twice, but just for whatever reason, things kept getting in the way. But yeah, with this news, once it comes out, I'll probably buy it because from what everybody tells me, it's one of the greatest games ever made. So yeah, that's really positive news, and I just like you said, I'm just confused as to why people haven't done it sooner. Like, it's this, and why the hell Bloodborne hasn't been ported to the PC yet with 60 frames per second patch. It's just, I guess some people just don't like money.
Again, it's like all they need to do is like.
It's literally the easiest win possible.
It's literally just like a few days of work tops. Like unless they have like the worst spaghetti code you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Then maybe yeah. But I just don't. I refuse to believe that they're that stupid or that useless or that arrogant to just not see the obvious win.
Mm-hmm.
It's really frustrating sometimes.
I don't know what the hell happened when. Is it Dan Houser or Sam Houser that left? It's one of those two. When they left, for some reason, everything just started to go downhill from there.
Did they not like money? Did they hate it? They're just like, no, we don't. Oh, please stop giving us money. We don't know what to do with it now. Oh,
we've bathed in it so much. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good news, I suppose. And then we just wait until, I'm assuming, November 30th of 2025 for GTA 6. Because that's just how nihilist my mind is. Nah. Anyway, I'm moving on to the last story, which is another piece of good news. My personal game of the year of last year was Alan Wake 2. I unfortunately never got to play all of Baldur's Gate 3, and I never got to play Tears of the Kingdom, which, from what I understand, are generally superior. But I did play through all of Alan Wake 2. It's a wonderful work of art. Remedy is one of my favorite game developers in the business, and Sam Lake, as far as I'm concerned, he's the creative director of Remedy. He is like the Western Hideo Kojima. He's an absolute genius. What's sort of sad, though, is that not everybody tends to play Remedy's games. I was about to say Redemption's games. Not everybody plays Remedy's games, even though they should. And Alan Wake 2, I suppose, because of how idiosyncratic the game in and of itself is, it's kind of hard to market it. Plus, it's a sequel to a game that's over a decade old. Not everybody's played the first game. Like, the first game didn't sell all that well. It became sort of a cult classic, and it made its money back, but just barely. So naturally, the money that was put into Alan Wake 2, it was a lot, and it was going to take a while, if at all. It wasn't certain that they were going to make all their money back. But I got some good news. According to GamesIndustry.biz, it appears that according to the most recent financial earnings report that Remedy put out for the first half of 2024, that they have recouped almost all of the money that was put into the development of Alan Wake 2. And I imagine by the time the second DLC comes out, whenever that is, probably maybe November or December of this year, that they will have gotten everything back. And that makes me very, very happy. Remedy is, in my opinion, one of the top 5 game developers that are working in the business right now. Their games are absolutely wonderful. They need to continue to make games. Everything that they put out is an absolute banger. And one last note on this report that was put out. Max Payne 1 and 2, the remakes that they announced about a year or two ago, are now in full development. So those are going to be the next games coming out from Remedy and Syb. Aside from GTA 6, I don't know what game I'd be looking forward to more. Max Payne 1 and 2 were my childhood. They are gloriously bootleg. Like, probably the most gloriously bootleg games that have ever existed. Like, I could play those games now and just Max Payne diving in slow motion while shooting dudes and having them ragdoll across the room never gets old. It is so so funny. Oh, like even with those old ass Xbox One, not like Xbox One, but Xbox original era graphics. Mwah, it's so great, and I can't wait to see what they do when they up the res and all that. I'm curious to see how they're going to handle the unfortunate passing of the late James McCaffrey. Rest in peace. But anyway, I'm buying them no matter what. Yeah. Any thoughts, Seb?
Max Payne diving through the air, shooting and sending people flying is one of the memories of gaming that is like permanently etched onto my subconscious.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. That's one game that I've always wanted to do a retrospective on for my channel. It's just the problem is my channel tends to focus on a lot of really esoteric mythological crap, and Max Payne isn't that. But I just love Max Payne so much that I just always wanted to find a way to just do videos on it, but I never could. Yeah. Anyway, that does it for this episode of Maximum News, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for bearing with me while I'm not feeling all that well. I imagine the next few weeks are actually going to be pretty packed with news. Oh yeah, Gamescom is happening on Tuesday. There's going to be a lot of news coming out about that. And then, of course, a whole bunch of game releases that are coming out. My second most anticipated game of the year, Black Myth Wukong, is coming out on Tuesday as well. It's going to be a pretty banging Tuesday. And then a couple of weeks after that, we got Visions of Mana. Really interested in that. Then we got Warhammer Space Marine 2. Hell yeah. And then October is going to be probably the best month for gaming this year because we got Metaphor Free Fantasio, which is just looks off the chain amazing. Lots of good stuff to look forward to, so stay tuned for that. Saib and I will be covering it all. Saib, anything you want to say before we're done?
Yeah, we're gonna. I mean, normally we try to live stream a lot of these things, and I really, really want to this year, but we may not have the chance to. But I will try to at least kind of like stay in the chat window, so to speak, when this stuff is going on. So please, if you're watching and you're in our Discord channel and you're seeing something, or if you want to drag my attention to something, doesn't matter if you think 20 other people have done it before, please at me. It's the only way that I can really kind of catch up on some of this stuff sometimes. So yeah, please do that, and I'm really excited for what we're going to see here and the next kind of the gaming news up until November. It's going to be an interesting year. I don't think it's going to be as good as we kind of hope for because, again, corporate stupidity and brain rot. But eventually, I think we'll get through this kind of stuff. And I said this on my LinkedIn. And which I don't promote or talk about hardly ever, but I did post a thing there where it was like, please, gamers, if you guys have been laid off, this is the time to start indie studios, especially when you have, some money from that, from the layoff thing. Even if you're going back to your parents' place, try to set something up in your garage. Or in their garage, or whatever, because it is people like that started most of the companies that we have around us today, including Blizzard. Started out of a garage. EA started out of a garage.
Well, look where they are now. But
BioWare started out of a garage. Most of these places started out of a garage. Started with less than one or two people working on stuff that they didn't even have the tools that you have today. The amount of tools that you have today are really awesome. So I encourage people to get out there. I know it's been really rough for the gaming community in the last 12 months. It's been a nightmare, but I think this is the time to change that around and turn it around. So yeah. Indies all the way, and I do buy and support a lot of indie games still. Yeah.
On that note, by the way, as I tell you guys to go check out my personal channel, just at Max Derrat, which I'll link in the description box below. My most recent video is on an indie game called Detention, which was made by a team of 6 people over in Taiwan. It's a horror game, and in my opinion, it's the best. When it comes to sort of recapturing that old school Silent Hill feel, I've never come across a game that came closer than it did. And it came out 7 years ago, and it was made by 6 people. So if you want to see my video where I talk about that and analyze just how well done it is and how deep it goes with its mythology, you should go and check it out. It's called The Taiwanese Silent Hill. That will do it for this episode of Maximum News, guys. We will do this again next week. Until then, I want to remind you guys, as always, and as per usual, stay yellow.
Goodbye.